Well, thanks to everybody for coming this morning. As you, I guess, all know by now, a few months ago, we started a new program in Nashville called Root Nashville, with the idea that we needed to get back to essentially a 50% tree canopy in our county. And we think we can do that by planting about half a million trees between now and 2050. For a second, I was thinking 5 million, but because yesterday in Ethiopia, I think I heard on NPR, they planted like 3.5 million trees in one day. So I don't know, maybe we should try that. Let's go deeper. The reason we're doing it is not just that we've lost tree canopy, but there's a lot of evidence that it improves the quality of life and health of folks who live in areas with a better tree canopy. It's actually the cheapest method we have to avoid stormwater runoff. It's actually a really effective and inexpensive way for us to work on that. And as we look at our county generally, what we see is that areas with higher levels of poverty generally seem to have lost more tree cover in the last few years as well. So we picked areas to focus on initially that had higher levels of minority populations and poverty, because we want to get in there first to make the biggest difference in those communities where there's also a health gap, really. So it's an important thing for us to do. So we've got great partners in the public sector already, and we are moving forward. But the one thing we really need to help with is getting our neighborhoods more energized and more focused on this opportunity to plant more trees in every single neighborhood. So that's why we've asked you here today, just to give you a little bit more information and hopefully get you and your neighborhood more engaged and more willing to help us get more trees planted. Now, we're not suggesting any guerrilla plantings. I mean, I do have one friend at least who goes around town and does guerrilla plantings of trees on certain parcels. You probably all know him. But we do think that there's an important role for neighborhood associations to play in helping us build out this program and reaching the goal that we've set. So again, thanks for coming by this morning, and I think now you'll get a great presentation on how it actually is going to work. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all for being here today. This is a great partnership with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods and Community Engagement and Root Nashville, sort of a first foray into really strengthening that partnership between the campaign and the Office of Neighborhoods. And that's because we need your help at a really grassroots level to make the campaign successful. So I'm going to go over a little bit of just Root Nashville 101. We're going to describe the impact areas, which is a lot of the neighborhoods represented here are from those areas of, a really wide, broad county where we had to sort of make some strategic decisions on where to get started with our replanting initiative. And then we'll talk about just sort of benefits of trees generally. Not everybody likes trees in Davidson County, surprisingly. So there might be some sales and marketing efforts needed in terms of where we need to find available land to do some planting. And then we really want to hear from you in terms of challenges in your neighborhood, and talk about ways for you to make a difference and to get involved. So as Mayor mentioned, Root Nashville is a citywide campaign to plant 500,000 trees by the year 2050. It is a big and bold goal to transform green space and improve public health. And our motto is, yes, we canopy. And so in order to do all that, we have to leverage partnerships to meet that level of ambition. It's led by the nonprofit Cumberland River Compact as the operational partner. And then Metro Nashville is a major partner, particularly water services. And that's because, as Mayor mentioned, there's a huge return on investment from a stormwater management perspective. It's around 12 to 1 from that department on green as opposed to gray infrastructure investments. Other partners include the Nashville Tree Foundation, Hands on Nashville, Nashville Health, which is former U.S. Senator Bill Frist's nonprofit that's oriented around community health goals for Davidson County, and the Nature Conservancy of Tennessee. So where did this come from? Well, under former Mayor Megan Barry, we had a process to set some new sustainability goals for the city called Livable Nashville. And there was a natural resources subcommittee of that effort that a lot of environmental stakeholders and environmental science experts served on. They really were noticing that with growth and development, a lot of the trees, mature trees in Nashville, were starting to come down. When we put the plan out for public comment, we got that reinforced. We heard that back from neighborhoods where there was a lot of anxiety about, where, a 1970s brick ranch was coming down and infill homes were going up. All the trees on that parcel were taken down as a result. And so the campaign launched in October of 2018. You can see here we're planting tree number 1 with the Metropolitan Interdenominational Church in North Nashville, 37208. That's one of the impact areas you're about to hear about. We really wanted to respond to the fact that between 2008 and 2016, the canopy, the tree canopy in the urban zone fell from 28% to 24%, and that's putting us below many comparable cities across the country that averages out to around 9,000 trees per year lost during that period of time. So with that data, the Livable Nashville Committee proposed an aggressive campaign to restore the canopy. And that's because we're going to continue to increase in population. This is not a problem that's going to go away. We've added about 45% more people in Nashville between 2000 and 2017, and that has impacts on our natural resources. So I'm going to turn it over to Meg Morgan, who's the Root Nashville campaign manager, to talk a little bit about the outcomes that the campaign is focused on.
Hey y'all, good morning. I'm Meg Morgan, the campaign manager for Root Nashville. Thanks, Mary Beth. So this campaign is about planting 500,000 trees, as you've heard, as you've learned, but it's also about more than just planting the trees. There are some key outcomes with the campaign that we are looking to promote and looking to achieve. They're listed up here. So first of all, the mayor mentioned this earlier. We're looking for an equitable canopy distribution. I don't think it will surprise this group of people that some neighborhoods have a lot more trees than others. And we really aim to change that because we believe that all Nashvillians should have access to the benefits that trees provide. So secondly, this campaign, we're looking to mitigate the effects of childhood asthma. Trees improve our air quality, and it's known that areas that have greater tree density are shown to mitigate the effects of asthma, and that will also help with school attendance too, because kids sometimes have to miss school due to asthma attacks. Thirdly, this campaign is looking to reduce the urban heat island effect. So this is kind of a fancy way of saying that trees help cool our city, and cities are often much warmer than the outlying rural areas. We'll hear more a little bit later about some of the tree benefits, but they do cool our city and they help with that. Next, they also improve water quality, and you'll hear a little bit more about that as well. But trees not just help prevent flooding, but they also kind of clean our water as they're going to the waterways. And at the end here, we're also looking to minimize the impact of the emerald ash borer. We've got some information in the back about that as well. But by planting more diverse species, we'll be able to kind of mitigate those effects. So with these outcomes, we kind of looked at determining some key areas where we wanted to focus some really intensive planting. So again, the campaign, we're planting trees everywhere, all over Davidson County, but we're really focusing on some key areas where we think that will have the greatest benefit because of those key outcomes that we determined through the campaign. So how did we determine those key areas? How did we get to those impact areas? First of all, we gathered data on those 5 key outcomes that we just discussed and kind of put all of that information in maps and then laid all of those maps over together, kind of synthesized all of that information. Then once we had that of, looking at where were the highest rates of childhood asthma, looking at where the urban heat island effect was the greatest, we also compared that data to the Metropolitan Nashville Urban Forestry and Landscape Master Plan to kind of make sure that this plan was in line with what was already in place. So once we kind of gathered all the information and we got our maps together, this is what we came up with. We have North Nashville, South Nashville, and Madison. So campaign's about 500,000 trees. We have these other key outcomes that we're looking for. We have these impact areas. As Mary Beth mentioned, it launched in October 2018, so end of last year. So what have we done since then? We've had a full planting season since then, so what's happened since then? First of all, we met our first goal of planting 5,000 trees by Earth Day in April, so that was really exciting that we met that first milestone, so we're excited about that. We also have a really strong team of partners. You'll be able to hear from some of them today. And as Mary Beth mentioned, we also have nonprofits, government, business, all on board to make this happen and all working towards that one big goal together. We've seen increased support from Metro of their commitment to trees, so that's really exciting, and we're really glad to see that. We also have a really cool online mapping system where you can see exactly where all of the trees are planted, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, and the benefits that those particular trees are providing. So getting that software in place was really important on the front end. So that's kind of an overall overview of the campaign, a little bit more about the outcomes and the impact areas that we're looking for. But why would we encourage you in your neighborhoods to be a part of this? Like, what are some of the benefits that trees provide? I'm going to pass it back to Mary Beth to talk about some of those benefits. There's a lot. Get ready.
Okay, so we kind of wanted to provide you with a little bit of talking points around, just from a practical, pragmatic, everyday life standpoint, why do neighborhoods benefit? Why do neighbors, why do individual homeowners benefit from having good tree canopy coverage in where you live? As I mentioned, not everybody likes trees. I'm sure you have some yards in your neighborhood that are completely barren of trees, and those homeowners, they prefer that. And trees also come with, for an individual homeowner, some maintenance costs over time. So if you plant a tree in your yard, you might need to water it, you might need to prune it every few years, and you're going to have leaves in your gutters, some things like that some people may just not want to go there. But the benefits far outweigh in any of that, just from a practical, pragmatic standpoint. So, from the campaign is oriented around some policy goals, respiratory illness, urban heat island effect, stormwater, equity of access to the benefits of trees. But trees, first and foremost, if you have good trees on your property, your home value is higher. If you want to sell your house, you can ask for more on your purchase price if you have nice, good trees in your yard. People are looking for homes that have trees. According to scientific experts, the good people at HGTV, mature trees and a well-landscaped yard increase the value of a home by 7 to 19%. The Arbor Day Foundation confirms this. They add about 15% or more to your home value. Neighborhood traffic calming. This is one of the most popular programs Metro offers, and it could use a lot more funding. We have to turn down a lot of neighborhoods that want improvements in their street that really calm the speeds. But if you were to organize your neighbors around planting a tree in their yard in a way that the canopy would eventually sort of hang over the roadway, not only would it extend the life of that pavement, it makes streets safer by calming traffic. The National Association of City Transportation Officials says that trees can be used as a speed reduction mechanism. And that was featured in their Urban Street Design Guide. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration also cites studies that report using trees to line roadways bring down average speeds by up to 8 miles per hour. Trees also reduce road rage, surprisingly. Drivers see natural roadside views and exhibit lower levels of stress and frustration, and they don't put the pedal to the metal as much. They also narrow the visual field, create rhythm along the street, and you just sort of organically, you don't even notice, you just drive a little bit slower. Again, we mentioned the stormwater benefits. This is why Metro Water Services is investing in green infrastructure, particularly trees. They absorb tons and tons of water, thereby reducing urban flooding. I know we've got communities represented in here, particularly Bordeaux, who have a lot of challenges around stormwater. They've been underinvested in over time from a gray infrastructure perspective. And so floods happen when the soil simply can't soak up the rain fast enough when we have extreme precipitation events. Trees slow water flow down. Their roots drink a lot of that water. And then when they do drink it, their root systems are acting as a filter to clean pollutants. So, you know, all that oil and gas that's on a road, they're drinking that and, as before it goes into your creeks and streams and eventually the Cumberland River. Trees' root systems also help keep soil together and prevent erosion. So where you see mudslides happen, if trees had been planted there, they could have helped prevent that. Here in the Southeast, we have problems around heat in the summer. It can be really unpleasant. It can also be dangerous for people with health conditions. Nashville, in particular, over our surrounding suburban communities, our surrounding counties, we have 25 more days per year with temperatures over 90 degrees. And trees can lower temperatures by up to 4 degrees on our hottest summer days. They also aspirate, so their leaves are basically sweating. They're putting out a natural coolant, so when you're around them, you get that additional cooling effect in addition to the shade. The urban heat island effect, a lot of this is caused by just pavement, sidewalk, street, concrete that is basically both absorbing heat from the sun and then reflecting it back out. So it's like double time heat. If there's a tree covering that, the temperature is dramatically cooler. So here's an experiment that the Cumberland River Compact did with some children to put thermometers down on an uncovered piece of pavement versus a tree-covered piece of pavement, and they measured those temperature differences you can see there. And then we have data. This is one of the inputs into how we landed on our priority neighborhoods, where we basically went out and measured daytime land surface temperatures. And this is a map of that. You can see downtown, where we don't have very good tree cover, is extremely hot as compared to our suburban areas of the county with a lot of trees. So that's basically the urban heat island effect in a visual, a very prominent visual there. And this is data from that we've got in a Trust for Public Land tool that helps us look at what might be some good strategies around adapting to a warming climate to make sure that we are resilient and that we are taking care of people as we continue to have more and more extreme temperatures. I mentioned the home values go up when you've got trees on your property. If you plant trees closer to your house, you're going to save on your energy bill. You're spending, I guess, a lot of money during the summer months to have air conditioning. You're spending a lot of money in the winter to keep your home warm. Average homeowner can save from 4 to 20% on energy bills by planting the right trees in the right place around your home. Trees provide shade in the summer, which reduces the use of air conditioning, but it also acts as a barrier in cold weather, especially from wind. And then our Parks Department is really excited about reforesting some areas of their properties because it's less cost for them in terms of mowing. So if you have more tree coverage on your property, you're going to have to spend less time out there mowing. A lot of homes use lawn chemicals to maintain turf that are harmful. They actually pollute waterways that runs down all the streams and tributaries and rivers, eventually into the Gulf of Mexico, which is killing wildlife in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's also the fuel emitted from your lawnmower is air pollution, essentially. And then just, I have a mother who's 75 years old, and she's, aging in place in a suburban setting, and the lawn care is getting to be a little bit much for her. And so the less time she has to spend out there pulling weeds and mowing, I think is going to be better for her as she, goes into her 80s in her home that was built in 1973 on a half acre in the Bellevue area. So, and then I mentioned the health benefits. Trees with neighborhoods with more trees tend to have a mental health component to them. More people have lower stress, and so this can lead to a reduction in activity that might be unsafe for neighbors or criminal activity. Doctors now are writing prescriptions for people to get outside more because just being active and outdoors comes with a mental and physical health benefit. And so neighborhoods that have more trees, you see more people walking. It's more enjoyable to be around. It's cooler. The traffic is calmer on those streets. And so just having access to that green space comes with a lot of health benefits. So Rebecca's going to go into a little bit sort of around when and where to plant. This can help inform selecting project sites, both for your neighborhood and for the campaign. So as you're driving around your neighborhood, where to look, where might be a good place for a tree.
Okay, so when people ask me where is Root Nashville going to plant those 500,000 trees, my stock response is always everywhere we can. We have to get 15,800 trees in the ground a year, which if you do the math, and I did, is 44 trees a day. But saying we're going to plant everywhere is not entirely accurate. We like to see right tree, right place. I know you guys have driven down the road and you've seen those poor U-shaped trees underneath the power lines where NES has to come clear them out. That was not the right tree to plant there. If you're planting under a power line, you need to plant a short tree. There are also underground utilities that you have to think about. Water and sewer, not good to plant on. Gas lines, also pretty dangerous to plant on. So before you do a planting project, you're always going to want to call 811, and they'll mark where all those lines are so you don't plant. If you are going to plant in the right-of-way, you need to contact Public Works. They're picky about what you do in the right-of-way, so you need to get their permission. But also, if you're just planting a tree in your yard, you really need to think about what the final size of the tree is, where your house is, and where your neighbors are. My next door neighbor, bless his heart, planted a row of trees along his fence, and they were small when they went in, but now they are my trees too, because they have grown up into my yard, and luckily I like trees. You can find more, and planting time of year. We found out the hard way this year that really you want to stop planting by March. You want to plant during the colder months when the trees are dormant before they leaf out to give them the best chance of survival. So I get to be the Debbie Downer of the presentation. It would be irresponsible to have a conversation about trees in Metro Nashville without talking about the emerald ash borer. Now, the emerald ash borer is an invasive beetle. They believe it came over in shipping materials from Asia. It is actually a really pretty bug. Unfortunately, it's bright green in color. It's smaller than a penny. And what it does is its larvae feed on the vascular system of trees, preventing water and nutrients from getting to the canopy. And it will result in the fatality of the 270 million ash trees we have in the state of Tennessee. So this is a map showing kind of the distribution of the ash borer currently, well, in 2018. In the U.S. It was originally detected in Michigan in 2002, and from there it spread to the Northeast and Canada. And this kind of gives you an idea of how rapidly it's moving down the United States. It was first detected in Tennessee around Knoxville in 2010, and it first showed up in Davidson County, well, that we saw in 2014. The blue line around it represents a quarantine. We are currently under quarantine, which just means you can't move firewood or ash products out of our county. And they understand the quarantine isn't going to stop the spread of the ash borer. They're just trying to slow its progress to give some communities time to adapt and prepare for it. So here's a graph that takes into account when the emerald ash borer comes to a community and how long until the trees in that community die. So like I mentioned, in 2014 is when it was detected in Davidson County. So we are kind of on the uptick of that graph right there. So it is predicted based on studies from previous areas that all of our ash trees will die between 2025 and 2030. So many of you are probably thinking, oh no, do I have an ash tree? How do I identify ash trees? So the first thing that you want to look at is what is called a compound leaf. So the middle, upper, and bottom pictures are of compound leaves. It's leaflets off of a single stem. You'll see 5 to 9 leaflets. Now in Tennessee, we also have a couple of trees, namely the hickory tree, which we have a lot of, and black walnut, which also have compound leaves. So it gets a little confusing. So what helped me identify ash trees is what is called opposite branching. So if you look at that middle picture there, you'll see the two stems come off the main stem opposite one another. Now many other trees alternate, so they're kind of offset, and that's one of the good ways to tell if you have an ash tree or not. The bark can be pretty distinctive. It's kind of gray with a diamond-shaped pattern, and if you see the trees in spring, the seed pods are a light yellowish green and they're paddle-shaped. So how do you tell if your ash tree is infected? This one, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty far gone. But what you'll first start to see is you'll start to see a dieback in the crown. It'll lose some leaves. And then something called epicormic branching, which I've just learned about. It's where you see those sprouts come out from the bottom of the tree, and it means the tree is under stress. You can find the D-shaped exit hole. That is where the emerald ash borer emerges from the tree. It makes a little D-shaped hole. And also, it turns out emerald ash borer larvae are adored by woodpeckers. And so you're going to see a lot of damage to the tree from woodpeckers' holes and something called blonding as well, which changes the color of the bark. So what do you do if you have an ash tree? Ash trees can actually be treated with an insecticide in order to save them. The treatment is not cheap, but removing a large tree from your yard is not cheap either. And so if you have an ash tree with a high landscape value, you may want to decide to treat it, but you need to make that decision now because we're getting to the point where they can no longer be treated. Ash trees infected by the borer also become extremely brittle, more brittle than a typical dead tree. This is a picture of what they call ash snap. So they tend to break off and become dangerous. So arborist companies will no longer climb trees after they hit 20% dieback in order to take them down. So they'll have to bring in cranes, which makes the removal so much more expensive. So if you have an ash tree, you're probably going to want to go ahead and get it removed sooner rather than later. And then finally, if it's way in the back of your yard, in an area you don't care about, aren't going to be back there, you can just let it die and fall. You don't really have to do anything. So Metro Nashville does have a draft of an emerald ash borer response plan. The first step in the plan is to inventory what we have. We can't really figure out what to do until we know how many ash trees we have. The Parks Department has started their ash inventory in their parks, and they are not inventorying all their ash trees. They're only inventorying the ash trees with targets. So if there is a parking lot, if there is a playground, if there are trails or roads that an ash tree has a potential to fall on, they are inventorying those trees. So if you go to a park and you see a blue patch painted on a tree, that means it's an ash tree that's been identified. Metro Water Services has also started a right-of-way street tree inventory, and this is a picture of the software we're using to track those trees. We're up to about 25,000 trees so far, and we're going to continue the inventory next year, and we're going to start moving south into the county. These inventories may identify a few more trees that we want to save and treat. If they're good specimen trees, parks already started treating a few of theirs that they want to save. And so we may pick a few more to save through this process. But once we have the inventory and we're also inventorying the condition of those trees, we'll be able to get a prioritization list of which trees need to be removed first. And we'll start to figure out the budget around that. If you want to learn more about the emerald ash borer, there is a speakers bureau that can come out to a neighborhood group and talk about the ash borer. It's run out of the Metro Tree Advisory Committee. You can contact me or them about it, and I can get you more information. And I think there is also another emerald ash borer presentation that might be available on Channel 3 for you to view. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Meg to talk about something far more cheerful.
Is everybody feeling spooked now? Nervous about the emerald ash borer? So thanks, Rebecca. This is Rebecca Doan with Metro Water Services. So we're grateful for your partnership in this. So if you are feeling a little spooked, a little nervous about this, there is something that you can do, and that is to get more involved with the Root Nashville campaign. We are not planting ash trees. We're planting a really diverse number of species so that if something like emerald ash borer were to maybe hit again, the effects wouldn't be as devastating because we're planting a bunch of different kinds of trees. Okay, so what can you do now? If you've heard about this campaign, you've heard a little bit more about the emerald ash borer, you're really excited about planting trees and you want to get involved. Take all that bottled energy and we're going to wait until it's planting season in the late fall, winter, and early spring. But in the meantime, while you're excited, you can also take the pledge to plant trees in the fall. This is something brand new that we're about to roll out. This is kind of a draft graphic right there, but it will be ready within the next week. So you can sign up on the Root Nashville website. You can take the pledge to plant this fall. And if you want, you can choose to display your name and neighborhood on the website publicly so folks can see that you've made the pledge. And then you can share this little graphic either in newsletters to your neighborhoods or on social media to show that you've taken that pledge to plant in the fall. So the idea is to just get really excited for this upcoming planting season that we've got, since planting doesn't take place at this time of year. So again, this is coming out very soon, so look for it on the website within the next week or so. You'll be able to visit rootnashville.org, take the pledge there. We really encourage you to share this with your neighborhoods as well and with folks who you work with and live by. So once you have planted a new tree, once it is planting season in late fall and winter, what do you do to kind of make sure that that tree counts towards the goal? So what I think is really cool about this campaign is that it's really partnership driven. You've seen that today by all the folks that you've heard from. And because of that, we need everybody out there planting trees, and all of these trees count towards the goal, no matter who plants them. So if it's a Root Nashville sponsored tree planting campaign, those count towards the goal. If it's some of our partners at Nashville Tree Foundation planting, if it's a neighborhood association, or if it's even just an individual homeowner, all of those trees count towards the goal. But how do you actually log them and track them? How do you make sure that it counts towards the goal? There is a place on our website where you can access the Tree Plotter software, and this is our online mapping system. And it kind of walks you through how to log your tree and how to add it to the system, and then it gets added towards the goal. So you can visit our website and it takes you to Tree Plotter, and it kind of walks you through how to do that. It's fairly self-explanatory, but we'll also have some directions on the website available to kind of walk you through step by step how to add a tree once you've planted it. So I say all trees count, but you'll notice there's a little asterisk by that as well. So what does that mean? There's a few different kind of stipulations to which trees we're counting towards the goal. We're counting trees that are 1 inch caliper. So that means they have a diameter of 1 inch at about shoulder height right here. So the reason for that is we don't just want to plant new trees, we want to make sure that they survive. And when you plant bigger trees, it's much more likely that they will survive and they will live. So we're counting just the trees that are larger, that have that 1 inch caliper. We also strongly encourage that if you're doing an individual planting or a neighborhood association planting, that you plant native and adapted trees. And all of that information will be available on the website as well, so you can see which ones count towards the list. But we do count all species of trees except for our invasive species, which includes the Bradford pear and the tree of heaven. And we will include all of that information on the website as well, so you can see which ones are considered invasive and which ones are considered native and adapted. So, as I mentioned, we are planting new trees and we're putting those in the ground, but it's really about more than that, because we really want these trees to actually survive. The first few years of a tree's life are a little more fragile, and you want to make sure that they're really given some extra love and attention so that they do reach maturity. So we're not just planting trees, we're also helping to take care of them. Take a look for this truck out in your neighborhoods. This is through our tree care program that's run out of the Cumberland River Compact, but we're watering and pruning and maintaining trees that have both been sponsored through the campaign, but you can also contract with our tree care program so that we can then come out and take care of your trees for you. If you've planted trees and you don't want to worry about it, you can contract with us and we will help take care of those trees for the first few years of its life to ensure that it survives into maturity. We're also really excited. So as we mentioned, it's going to really ramp up in terms of the numbers of trees that we're planting over the next few years. So of course we're excited about that, but that's also going to mean that we have way more trees to take care of in addition to planting, right? So we're really looking to expand on our tree care program. We're exploring some partnerships with Opportunity Now, which will help provide green collar jobs in our green economy to youth who might be looking for jobs. And we're excited about that too, because that can help provide opportunities to folks who maybe live in the neighborhoods where we're doing the planting, and that can really continue to raise awareness and excitement about trees in our neighborhoods. So keep an eye out for this soon as well. Okay, so what else can you do to get involved? I think what's really exciting about the campaign is no matter who you are, where you are in Nashville, there is a way to plug in and get involved, whether that's volunteering or donating or spreading the word. We pulled out a few bullet points specifically for this group of ways that you all can get involved, and we also have this on a half sheet in the back as well as our contact information if you want to keep track of this. But here's some of the best ways for this group here to get involved. First of all, I mentioned that pledge drive that will be launched within the next week, very, very soon. So we really encourage you to get involved with that, to share it with your own neighborhood and your own folks to really get excited about the planting season coming up in the fall. We're also looking for planting site ideas. We've got a pretty full fall planting season coming up this fall, but this is a really long-term campaign, as mentioned, right? It goes till 2050. Spring will be here before you know it. The next fall will be here before you know it, and for years to come, we're going to be planting. So even if we can't plant those trees right away on that site that you have an idea for, that doesn't mean that you've missed your opportunity. This is a long-term campaign, so we really want to hear your ideas about where would be good planting sites in your own neighborhoods and districts. There's some upcoming events of other ways to get involved. There will be a tree sale in the fall with some of our partners where you can get trees at a really reduced cost. And again, all of those, when they're planted, count towards the goal. And we'll also have opportunities for small grants in the future where maybe your neighborhood can apply for a grant for trees. And then if you win that grant, we come in, get you some trees, and also help you plant them and take care of them. So really the best way to hear about the upcoming tree sales or events, or to hear about these opportunities for small grants in the future, the best way to kind of keep in the loop on all of this is to sign up for our newsletter. I do have a sign up in the back, but you can also do that on our website. You'll see this pop-up box that looks like this photo on the screen here where you can sign up to receive your newsletter. It's not spam, I promise, just good information, but that's really the best way to kind of keep in touch with what's going on with the campaign. We also have social media accounts. We've got a Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, and that's kind of the best way to see the day-to-day goings-on of the campaign. So we encourage you to follow us there. So this, as mentioned, this is a really big, bold, ambitious campaign. And as Mayor Briley mentioned, we're going to need everybody's help and commitment in order to achieve that, in order to make that happen. So thank you all so much for being here. And we really encourage you to join us in the Root Nashville campaign to help make Nashville greener, stronger, and healthier. So thank you all again.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.